TCU better hope they got the road monkey off their back, but I still need to see more to agree. Oh yeah, it's Locked On Horned Frogs. Play my music.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Horned Frogs podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything TCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I, of course, am Darrion Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. And just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward Mazda Move and Be Moved. I'm excited for today's episode. Joseph Manjack seemingly being phased out of the TCU offense is extremely curious, and I need to explore why I'm not believing anything otherwise. Also, I was told I'm being a negative Nancy. DM me, tweet me, let me know in the comments. There's no game this week. We're going to do a Monday mailbag. What do you want to talk about? And I'll be as positive as the topic calls for. Unfortunately, today is not one of those days. Segment 2, we'll look at Dykes and Hoover struggles on the road and why that is unacceptable. But we kick this whole thing off with why that monkey is not off of the back. I know many TCU fans hope to see the monkey off of the back. I know many TCU players and personnel and coaches, they believe the monkey is off their back. And they need to believe that because I do believe it's a mental aspect to it all. But I, the TCU podcaster, the TCU journalist, the host of Locked On Horned Frogs, I still need to see more because that win over West Virginia does not prove to me that TCU can go in and perform on the road. It actually leaves me with some more questions. I do not believe in moving goalposts. So let me set a very clear criteria for what it is that I need to see out of the Horned Frogs in order for me to deem that the monkey is off of their back. Win against a good team or win convincingly. Those are mutually exclusive. Right? Like, it's not like you have to beat a good team convincingly. You just have to beat a good team. But if you're facing a bad team, you need to beat them convincingly. I do not believe that is what happened on Saturday against West Virginia. Someone asked. I call back to that negative Nancy comment. My response to them was basically, there was some more stuff in there. But one of the things that I said was, hey, I'm not happy about what happened against West Virginia. I'm not here to sugarcoat it with you. And that doesn't mean that you have to agree. But when I look at what I saw on Saturday, it was a win, but it was a win that was not glowing, in my opinion. If we're going to take it back to school, yeah, a B is passing. A B is solid. We looking for A's. We looking for A pluses. You could get a C and pass. Technically, you're going to walk the stage. But are we championing C's? Are we championing B minuses? Maybe, A, B honor roll and whatnot. But I was striving for the A's. All right. I ain't always get them. I got them most times. But I didn't always get them. But I was striving for A's. And you know what? Growing up, if I didn't get the A, the focus was how do we get to the A? And I think that's the attitude I'm taking here. I have a very clear criteria for what it is to get the monkey off of TCU's back. I have a very clear criteria on how I'm judging TCU. It's not just wins and losses. That's so boring. That's so black and white. That's not critical, in my opinion. Like, yes, you need to win. It's not critical thinking. I should say it that way. This, to me, how you win is not only important in the realm of college football, but it's also important in just discussing sports because that's how we break down teams. If it was just wins and losses, I would not have a show. If it was just wins and losses, you would not be talking about it with your friends. You want to talk about who looks the best. And quite frankly, at 6-2, I don't believe that this team is playing as good as they can. This is such a talented team that, in my opinion, does not rise to their talent enough, specifically on the road. I told you what the criteria is. And with that criteria being set, who thinks they have met that criteria? Because I go through what they've done this year. They lost to Arizona State on the road. They lost to Kansas State on the road. And I would say those were the two ugliest performances of their season. That's not to say that they were without positive moments within that, but all in all, that was the ugliest end of a game against Arizona State, and that was probably the ugliest turn of a game against Kansas State. Both of those moments happened on the road. So when we're talking about getting the monkey off of the back, first off, yes, you beat North Carolina. Let's get that out the way. And since we're setting criteria, one part of this that I forgot to mention is the hectic environment. Because the hectic environment, for me, is what is going to cause TCU problems moving forward. Like, yeah, neutral site games don't count. There's a reason neutral site games don't count as road games. There's no environment to go against. You can tell me if you see it this way. I don't think North Carolina was a hectic environment. I don't. Arizona State was, once those fans got into the building, once the student section got filled out, because there was a lot of weather at the beginning. Once they got filled out, it was a problem. Kansas State is always a tough place to go play. So is West Virginia. And I think many people believe, oh, you finally got to win. And that's one way to look at it. I think that's a very optimistic way to look at it. And I'm not here to be pessimistic. I think I'm here to be realistic. I'm trying to live in the middle. I'm trying to live in the middle of just blowing smoke up your you-know-what and just bring you down for no reason. But in my opinion, you didn't play up to par against West Virginia either. You have these inconsistencies on the road, whether it's scoring 20 points in the first half and then going scoreless for the majority of the second. That's a problem. I think you're much better than West Virginia. I think you should have beat West Virginia by maybe, I want to say a score and a half, but like 10 points. I think it should have been a double-digit victory. Instead, you won by 6. Instead, you were scared that an onside kick could have came back to bite you again. I don't think that coming down to the wire, I don't have to say think, coming down to the wire is not the way that I envisioned this game going on, because I think there's a gap. So you need to either beat a good team or win convincingly against a bad team. Because if you win convincingly, I can just say, fine, you were able to get over the distractions that would have came against West Virginia. It's a cold rush game. That's a heated environment. That's the type of bad team that if you beat convincingly, I would say you got it off your back. I would say I trust you to go in somewhere and not be rattled by the road team. But unfortunately, they have not shown me that. And I don't know if they will show me that, because you got UH and you got BYU. Those are two really good teams. I don't need you to beat them convincingly. The only way you walk out of a road victory versus BYU or Houston, and I say I'm not proud or I'm not feeling like they finally got that off their back, they finally passed the test. The only way that happens is if you're up huge. Like, say you're up like 30, 40 points. You're up 40 points in the second half, and you allow a 40-point comeback that only fails because this team decided that they wanted to go for 2 instead of going for an extra point that would have took the game into overtime, and they missed that 2-point conversion, right? Like, if you were up 40 points, you would allow 39 in the second half, and it could have been 41, right? That's the situation. That's super specific. If that's the situation or the circumstances, okay, I will probably come in with the same tone of being displeased. But BYU is a scrappy team that's just difficult to beat. UH, I think, is a good team. I think these are quality opponents. You're going to have 6 road games. North Carolina, I think you passed the test of being able to stay focused in a media storm. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about hectic environments. I'm talking about UH versus TCU. I think it may be a balanced crowd. I think it'll be a balanced crowd, but UH is going to be fighting for a championship berth at this point. They're looking to make a push. Those fans are going to be loud in third ward. Okay? That's one way to look at it. The other way is BYU is extremely talented and a crazy place to go play. You beat either one of those teams, I'm saying you passed the test. You didn't pass versus Arizona State. Obviously, you lost. You didn't pass against Kansas State. Obviously, you lost. And then you're talking about this West Virginia game that you won. In my opinion, in my criteria, you did not meet it. To me, if we're going to keep this analogy of grades and keep this analogy of school going on, passing a road test is like an essay. This is not a math question. This is not, I like that. I like that. We're going to keep this analogy of school. Passing the road test, getting this monkey off of your back, it's not math. It's not an A, B, C, D. It's not multiple choice. It's an essay. You could pass me one essay. You could pass him one essay. You could pass her one essay. And we have different criteria on what we're looking for. And based on that criteria, if you meet it, depends on what your grade is going to be. My criteria is that you come in and play relatively clean football. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be completely mistake-free, but it does have to be confidence-inspiring. And I do not believe outside of that North Carolina game, where I don't think that the environment was hectic at all. I think you had to be focused with the media aspect, but you were being completely ignored anyway. Outside of North Carolina, Arizona State, Kansas State, West Virginia, I don't believe that you passed those tests. I don't. So let's move forward, because one of the big reasons that it may be difficult to get that monkey off of your back is the idea of Dykes' struggles and also Hoover's struggles. I think that's something interesting I want to dig into deeply as we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Listen, this is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. And there are moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move crowds forward, move culture, and also move the game forward. Matter of fact, the moment that we're going to highlight today didn't put any points on the board, but it definitely moved the game forward. And that's Eric McAllister's fourth down catch, in which he sealed the game for TCU right before the 2-minute warning and allowed Josh Hoover to kneel it out from that moment on. It doesn't matter what the score is. Eric McAllister has risen to the occasion more times than not. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day. Every day, for your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Big 12. Check out the Locked On Big 12 show. We had a really fun conversation on there, so let me know what you think. It's about the Big 12's ability to get 3 playoff teams in this year's playoffs. Road games, deep breaths, exhales. Man, when it comes to TCU, they have to hope that they got the road game under wraps. Like, let's get this monkey off the back, because sometimes it's like a shooter who's having a bad day and you just need to go to the free throw line and see the ball go in. Maybe TCU just need to see the ball go in a road game, and now they feel more confidence, right? Sometimes you just need to get a win. Who cares how ugly it is? It's effective. It allows your psyche to breathe. It allows you to kind of decompress and not play as tight. Maybe that's what TCU needs. One reason or two reasons, Sonny Dykes and Josh Hoover. Those are the two concerns I have in 2025 around the road monkey. Now, I had somebody reach out to me on Twitter, and this is what I mean when I say, if you just DM me, just tweet me, I'll try to infuse, especially during a bye week or definitely coming off of a bye week, I'll try to infuse whatever it is that you want to talk about into the show. And someone said, hey, Mouth of the South, you need to take a look at Sonny Dykes' road record. You need to see what he does in TCU outside of 2022. Because a lot of people say 2022, that was GP. That was his team. That was his leadership. That was all of these things. And, I think that's the tough part about winning your first year at a new place is everybody's going to credit the last person before you as building your team, especially if you don't have that same level of success afterwards. Okay, whatever. That's perfectly fine. If they would have won the championship that year, I don't think anybody's complaining. I don't think Sonny Dykes cares if you said that was Gary Patterson's team or not, right? But I looked at not just what he did this year. I went back. I did my Googles. I did the knowledge. And this is what Sonny Dykes has done over his 4-year career at TCU. 3.5, whatever, going on 4 years. This year, he is 4-0 at home. He's 2-2 on the road. 2024, Sonny Dykes was 5-2 at home, 4-2 on the road. The year before that, he was 4-3 at home, and he was 1-4 on the road. Now, in 2022, they only lost one game all season long, and that was, to Kansas State. So, but that wasn't a road game. Go through these real quick. 2025, so far, he's 4-0 at home, 2-2 on the road. Only 2 losses are on the road. This is where it gets difficult because, like I said, person DMs me, tells me, hey, you need to look at this. I was already planning on talking about the road struggles, and now we just have this secondary topic because of it. I did the knowledge. I did my Googles. And this is what I was able to find. I wanted to see what was the track record of Dykes on the road. In Dykes on the road, he has 4-0 at home this year, 2-2 the year before, 2-2 on the road. He's 4-2 on the road in 2024. Now, one thing I think the commonality between 2025 so far and 2024 on the road for Sonny Dykes is not just what the record is, because 4-2 on the road isn't that bad. Like, that's not a terrible record. Obviously, you want to be better. You don't want to be 9-4 on the season, but like, it's not a terrible record. What it is, though, is a loss to Baylor and a loss to SMU. And that's the commonality. The commonality between 25 and 24 is that TCU lost a game to Baylor on the road in 2024 and lost a game to SMU on the road in 2024. Those are 2 rivalry games, and to lose those matchups, especially in the fashion that he lost to SMU, those tend to stick. Not all games are weighed equally, even though they count the same. This year, he's 2-2 on the road. That's 500. But that game against Arizona State, as I mentioned earlier, was the ugliest close to a game I've seen by the Frogs in 2025. In 2025, the ugliest turn of events in a game came after the pick 6 versus Kansas State, another road game. They looked absolutely rattled. They looked absolutely discombobulated. This is a commonality between 25 and 24 that would make people say Sonny Dykes does not win on the road. The tweet or the DM actually says that basically you can't be a championship team doing this. 2023, he's 1-4 on the road. That's just ugly. That's just ugly, period. But I would also say they weren't that good of a team in 2023. They were 5-7, but you look at it, at home, they weren't that good either. They were just really bad on the road. So, and then, like I said, 2022, that just, it wasn't a thing. Road, home, didn't matter. You were a warrior, no matter what. I think that's enough to be concerned. I mean, the thing about that is I would have to go into each game and break down what happened and who you beat and what's the quality of opponent you beat on the road. What's the quality of opponent that you lost to on the road? Like, I'd have to really get into it. And it's difficult. For example, in 2024, they beat Kansas on the road. Kansas wasn't that good, but Kansas had a really hot stretch at the end. So maybe they were that good. Or did they just catch fire at the end? TCU wasn't a part of that. They're about 2 games removed from when the Jayhawks really caught steam. How do you weigh that win at the end of the season? Do you weigh where they were at the moment? Do you weigh where they were at the end of the year? How much of that is because of who they were playing? Right? Like, maybe TCU is just better than them, and that's why they were able to win. Not because Kansas all of a sudden found the remedy. I don't know. These are things that are difficult. But what I'll say is, when you look at 2025, the losses he suffered. When you look at 2024, the losses he suffered. When you look at 2023, just the overall record is bad. It does feel somewhat repetitive. It does give way to being concerned. I think that Sonny Dykes is a good coach. I really do. I like Dykes. I think that he has stepped into a role. I think he's had early success. I think some of the things that he said about his success rate since taking over the job are completely correct. But I understand why people are unable to ignore a loss to SMU in the fashion they lost to SMU in 2024, and also a loss to Baylor. Those are the two biggest rivals, and you fell to both of them. It's a tough pill to swallow. It is. Now in 2025, you just have ugly games. Your ugliest games come on the road. Josh Hoover, statistically, much different on the road. This was a very interesting stat to me. And I think this is more 2025 based because in 2024, it wasn't lopsided like this. In 2023, it was slanted towards the home, but I think that's pretty normal. I don't know if it was an egregious amount. In 2025, the difference between Hoover on the road and Hoover at home is something. All right. Now, at home, he has 88 completions on 134 attempts. He has 1,222 yards, 16 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's also been sacked 4 times. Josh Hoover on the road has 97 completions on 154 attempts. He has 1,149 yards, and he has 6 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. This is not slanted based off of amount of play. He has played 4 games at home. He's played 4 games on the road. He was also sacked 8 times. I want to make sure I include that sack number because it also shows you how much he's been under pressure. I do feel like there's been a difference. The ugliest games for Josh Hoover, all on the road. Every single one, even in victories like West Virginia. If you want to say he was hit and maybe he was a little discombobulated, he was out of there, I'll give you that against West Virginia. 100% he was hit. But it's been a commonality. And I was talking to somebody about something Saints related. And I was just like, man, once you do things enough times, context begins to kind of go out the window. Context kind of begins to fade. We don't care what the reason is here or where the reason is there because it kept happening. And at the end of the day, it just kept happening. I think Josh Hoover is very talented. Matter of fact, you look at the 5 interceptions, I could think of specifically 2, 3 that weren't his fault, right? Like the Jordan Dwyer drop in Arizona State. Not his fault. The North Carolina one's kind of iffy. Actually, I was thinking about the Eric McAllister one, but that was technically at home. That's the one home interception he has. The other interception versus Arizona State was his fault. The interception versus Kansas State was his fault. I think he might have had 2 against Kansas State, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he had 2. I think they were both his fault in that game. Yikes. But basically the point is that it's not all on Hoover. It's not all on Hoover. Some of this is situationally, but I felt like he handled the pressure better against SMU. But what you're seeing is whether it's offensive line play, whether it's Hoover himself sailing some throws like he did against West Virginia, like whatever the circumstance is, Dykes and Hoover have had their struggles on the road in 2025, and you're never going to be successful in situations where your quarterback and coach struggle. It's just not happening. In those situations, you have to understand one can have their, well, actually, if the quarterback plays better, the coach probably has a better record. If the offensive line plays better, then the quarterback probably plays better. If you're able to run the football against Arizona State, the quarterback probably plays better. I don't want you to think I'm blaming everything on Josh Hoover because that's not what's happening. What I'm saying is what Josh Hoover does on the road and how many games that Sonny Dykes wins and loses on the road are great indicators of the struggles that the Frogs have on the road. And there's a lot of reasons that go into that, but I think that's the bottom line. No one gets more praise or blame than the coach and quarterback. So when talking about one of the biggest issues on this team, we're going to lay the blame at the feet of the coach and quarterback. But let's move forward to someone who I haven't seen a lot, someone who wears the same amount of gloves that I have. I'll let you get about a minute to guess who it is on who we're talking about before we continue with Locked On Horned Frogs. Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost a weekend, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most, and let's break it down. I got three for you. Caleb Elarms Orr with his 16 tackles. I got Eric McAllister with his 124 yards on 9 catches and a touchdown. And I have Trent Battle, who set a career high in 89 yards. All of these players absolutely came out hooping last week against West Virginia. You can have conversations about this, conversations about that. Trent Battle rose to the occasion when Kavorian Barnes wasn't being played. Eric McAllister rose to the occasion because he's Eric McAllister, and so did Caleb Elarms Orr, being a tackling machine that he's always been. Just like all these players deliver for the Frogs, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season long and save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, and fuel your game day with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. And FanDuel is the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. As I get off, I'm about to open up FanDuel and see what they're talking about with this Pelican game, okay? Because the Pels are playing right now, and I started this while the game was going on. You've done it before. Maybe you had to run to the grocery store. Maybe you had to go pick up some food for the game, so you weren't able to pull out your handy-dandy, not notebook if you're a Blue's Clues kid like me, but your handy-dandy phone. You weren't able to put money down. Got here in the middle of the first quarter and felt like all your dreams were dashed. No, sir. No, ma'am. You can still do live game betting, or maybe just at halftime, you want to have some projections there. Doesn't matter. And if you're feeling really good, put down a $5 bet today. New to FanDuel? Get $300 back in bonus bets if your $5 bet wins. It's simple. It's easy. It's just time for you to go ahead and do it. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On Horned Frogs, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. Where's Joseph Manjack? Where is Joseph Manjack? Because he was such a hot topic earlier. Oh, look, it's Manjack with no gloves. He's such an old school player. He doesn't wear gloves. Whoa, 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 whoa. Where's the fanfare now? And it feels like he was expedited out of this TCU offense. That's strange to me. That's strange to me. I understand holding players accountable, but it felt like he was held accountable as if he had not positively impacted the offense before. I'm all for a player makes mistakes and you need a punishment. It feels like he's being punished for what he didn't do against Kansas State. Let me break this down. Now, I talked about this in the postgame show, and I forgot that Dykes wasn't going to have a press conference in the middle of the week on the bye week. So I was actually waiting to hear what it was that he had to say, but he didn't have anything to say because he didn't do a press conference. So instead, I will give you the numbers of Joseph Manjack. Now, if you go to the Kansas State game, against Kansas State, he had 2 drops. He had 2 drops in that game. Ugly. Admittedly, he dropped 2 of the 3 targets that he had that day. Got you. He had 2 drops the whole rest of the season. He had a drop versus North Carolina, and he had a drop versus SMU. So that's coming up to that point. That's 1, 2, 3 games that he didn't have a drop. And I mean, technically he didn't have a drop against Baylor, but he barely played. That's the problem. He barely played. And excuse me, he had 4 targets against Kansas State. 1 just, I guess, didn't get to him, so he didn't drop it. But he had 1 catch, 2 drops on 4 targets. Let me get to his snaps because I want to break it down. Someone said in the post game that it was just because Everhart and they wanted to get him involved. I can't co-sign that. First game, 40 snaps. Second game, 23 snaps. Third game, over 40 snaps, 45 snaps. The 5th game, he hits 50 snaps. The next game, 50 snaps. Against Kansas State, 14. Now, it's one thing to have a problem with a player's performance. It's one thing to say, all right, we're going to move on. It's one thing to do all of that. But A, Joseph Manjack showed you a lot of good things in those first 5 games. It was ugly against Kansas State, but he showed you a lot before that. He only got 14 snaps against Kansas State. There wasn't a lot of opportunities for him to redeem himself, even in the game in which he struggled. You would have thought that he was like the 4th, 5th wide receiver who wasn't doing anything before, and it was like, we're going to move on from you quickly. I would have thought that he earned a little bit more of a leash. I haven't heard anything about injuries. I haven't heard anything like that. He's just not playing. So versus Kansas State, he has 14 snaps on offense. He plays no special teams up to this point. The next week, he has 2 snaps on special teams, one of which is the onside kick that went straight to him that he did not catch. He did not recover it. So he 2 snaps out wide, 9 snaps in the slot, 1 snap in line. So you're looking at 14 total snaps, 2 of which were on the ground, 2 of which were on special teams, 12 of which were on offense. And then this last game, he plays 1 snap all year. That's it. That's the only snaps that he saw versus West Virginia. So he had his mistakes against Kansas State immediately. And when I say immediately, I don't mean the next week. The same day he gets his snaps slashed. The next week gets his snaps slashed. This week he doesn't play offense at all. And it just has me scratching my head. For a player who gave you 114 yards versus against Abilene Christian. For a guy who gave you 83 yards versus Arizona State, a guy who gave you 65 versus Colorado, he's given you contributions that I would think would earn him the right to bounce back from an ugly drop game. It's just weird. I don't have reasons. I have questions. And one thing I can tell you is that Joseph Manjack being completely just excommunicated from this offense is one of the more strange things I've seen. It seems like maybe Kavorian Barnes was as well, even though Sonny said in the press conference that we lost our running back, so it sounds like it was injury, but I don't know. I wish we had a game to look at this week so we could see how they would handle it, see who would be on the injury report. But Manjack has been steadily seeing his snaps go down from that 2-drop game. It just makes me wonder what happened. What happened to have him cut down that quickly? Anyway, in the meantime, in between time, we'll be back tomorrow to talk about the things that TCU needs to figure out. And it's really kind of simple, to be honest. I don't think it's a lot for the Frogs to figure out. I think they're a good team. They just need to put it all together a little bit more consistently. And we'll get into all of it on tomorrow's episode. In the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, check out that Big 12 squad show. Check out that Big 12 show, Drake and his mead. Anyway, in the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care. Stay blessed. Peace.